begin the meeting. And it doesn't look as though we have any members of the public here, but I'm delighted to see that Lou Groner is here, our city council liaison. So
Thank
why
you
don't
so
we
much.
go around the circle, and we can all kind of reintroduce ourselves and just share something that's on your mind, kind of related to the work of this committee. So I guess, Victoria, do you want to start? And then
Sure.
whoever
I'm Victoria
starts,
Meyer.
and then just ask the next person to go.
Sure. I'm Victoria Meyer. I live in the Sunset area, and I think emergency preparedness is a topic for today for the city. So, sure. Kate?
All right, my name is Kate Jaspers. I'm still kind of getting back in the scheme of talking to adults. I've been kind of cooped up with my kids this week with no school. So, and I'll give my usual disclaimer, which is if there's noise, it's kids, and there is another adult watching them, and everybody's okay. And so something on my mind is food scrap composting. And I know, Greg, you sent an email about contacting with someone from Oregon Metro.
Yeah, I'll report on that.
All right, let's turn it over to Greg. Did you already go?
So,
Oh, you didn't go.
Smith lived down by Willamette Park and the Willamette River. And I think one of the things that's been on my mind is just conversations that I've had with folks who are in the tree care business, and just talking about the variety and a number of Douglas fir trees that die, just during the summer, that they have to be removed. And it just strikes me, with all of the tree loss over the last week, that trees are just really stressed, both in their roots and perhaps in their structures as well. And it just hit me that that's going to be kind of an issue that folks in the Portland area are going to have to be dealing with, probably moving forward. And being surrounded by very big fir trees where we are, I'm just kind of constantly alert to the fact that one of those babies could fall on us. And it is something just to kind of think about how one goes about kind of responding to that shift just in the climate and the structure of trees. So, Dan.
Hello, my name's Dan. Nice to meet you. And let's see, I've been on the committee here, the board, I think about a year, a little over a year. And I guess things that are close to me or personal to me, I guess. I've been doing a lot of research on EVs and also solar energy, and just ways to lower, my household carbon footprint, as well as it would be nice to, do that citywide as well. I should mention, I guess I live down kind of near the Willamette area, by Fieldbridge Park, by the new Athey Creek Middle School. So, and let's see, I will pick Mike.
I think I'm the only one left.
Yeah,
Mike Carlson.
Right?
Oh, sure, yeah. So Mike Carlson, live over in the Bolton area, kind of near the firehouse. I think I'd echo both what Dan and Greg said. Certainly a concern about the health of the trees in the community and the potential safety implications of that. We've got a nice big Doug fir outside, and it's on a hill that's kind of angled towards our bedroom. So I do worry about that in the event of another wintry precipitation event. And definitely eager to work more closely with the city in some capacity to help bring EV charging into the community in a bigger way. Dylan.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Dylan Digby, the staff liaison. I'm obviously also thinking about emergency preparedness. I was trapped and I was prepared for overnight, so I was comfortable. So that's good. On the topic of EV chargers, yeah, that's Public Works is working on. I gave them the recommendations of this group just the other day, so they're going to start applying for grants. So maybe we'll get another one or two. So just wait.
Great. Were you with your kids in the when you were sheltering in place?
No, my
No.
my kids were somewhere else. We're home. My kids were home, yeah, with my wife.
That's good. That's good. So Lou, what could you say about yourself
Well,
for the rest of us?
Well,
and
about 2 months
anything that's been
ago,
on your mind?
we cut down a limb of a tree that was leaning over our driveway and our porch. So I'm glad that got cut down. What else? Um, we we are in the process of replacing a roof a year after we put up the solar panels. So we got to remove the solar panels, fix the roof, put the solar panels back. So that's the exciting. Oh yeah, my partner decided as an emergency preparedness measure to have a rain barrel placed there. And then the city declared that we couldn't drink the water out of the faucet. So she went out to see what was happening in the rain barrel. And of course, it was frozen solid. So
Well, thank you. Let's move on to minutes. Did folks have a chance to read them? And do you have any recommendations about things that need to be changed about them? I got them right here in front of me. Any corrections, additions?
I don't have any objections to it.
Neither do I.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I
To
move to approve the
approve.
minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Good, great, thanks. So I think for this evening, the main issue to explore is our upcoming meeting with the city council on February 4th, 6:30. And Lou, is that meeting? I know Dylan let us know, I think, end of November, sometime in December, that we would be meeting with the city council for a work meeting on that first Monday in February. So I think we were interested in kind of bringing our some of our recommendations, just to have a conversation about that at that meeting. So as far as you know, is that still on the books?
yeah, I think it's hopefully a two-way conversation that we listen to your recommendations and the backup for those recommendations.
Okay,
And we will, we will a couple of weeks later be doing council goals for the
Mhm.
following year. And so, but hopefully we'll have some thoughts about the goals and possibly how they interact with sustainability.
great, good, thank you. So I went through, we kind of ranked them before this particular meeting. And so if you want to jot these down, these were the just the order in which they were ranked. The highest ranked item was finding a consultant who could help the city write grants and potentially help shape the direction of just our sustainability efforts. So if we were to hire a sustainability coordinator at the city level, they would have a kind of a game plan to work with. The second item was the baseline data to be able to kind of present that to the city council and ask for their approval of that. The next one was the walkable and bikeable city.
Hold on a moment. Do you want to tell me a little more about the baseline data?
We'll talk about all of these. I'm just kind of giving people the order right now.
Sure.
The walkable, bikeable city is third, presenting the resolution with regard to when gas burning appliances are in need of replacement, replacing them with electric equipment. The fifth one was the revising the tree code, and the sixth one was climate resilience. So actually, when I was talking with my wife about this over dinner, she said, now that everybody's ranked things, you should go back and ask like whether there were any other things now that you've gone through that process that you want to make sure should be included in our conversation this evening.
I think that does a pretty good job of covering a lot of what we've talked about, maybe with the exception of the composting.
Right, right. And I think the composting, after having talked with Christine Lewis, might be something that we basically continue doing research on, particularly talking with the folks at Westland Refuse and Recycling about the possibilities of finding other transfer stations for the food waste. And Chris, I'll tell you more about that later.
Sure.
So do people feel comfortable about that particular order?
It's fine.
Okay.
I'm all right with
So my sense is that let's kind of explain these kinds of things to Lou, but also kind of think through like what are the costs and what are the benefits kind of tied into each of these so that we can provide a kind of a decent rationale to the city council. So with regard to the consultant, we've talked about that one a lot. Mike did a little bit of research just to try to look at some of the financial benefits of that. Do you want to share what you found, Mike?
Sure. This is all fairly preliminary, and I only had time to look through the lens of grant funding for EV charging stations. And I have no sense for what a sustainability consultant might charge for their time. But under the assumption of $50 an hour billing rate, if somebody was to spend 6 months working on grants at 5 hours a week, that'd probably be about $6,500 for their efforts there. And the state is offering EV charging station grants of between, I think, I had it in an email somewhere, might have been $2,000 to $4,000.
Yeah, it was 4,250 to 5,500.
Okay, so yeah, I think if we can secure 3 grants, then that time would be essentially paying for itself and then some. But presumably, a sustainability consultant would be doing much more outside of just targeting EV charging grants. But our thinking is that there are probably numerous other grant programs that the city can and should be taking advantage of, and that it might make a lot of sense to kind of centralize that effort into somebody who is looking at this through a lens of sustainability and outside funding, and that could be like a winning proposition financially for the city operations.
And Dylan, do you know any more about like where this stands in terms of what John has been exploring?
I think it's stalled out with just other things going on, to be honest. I
Uh-huh.
need to check back in with him on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So, and Lou, have you had many conversations about this at the city council, about the consultant?
Not this specific consultant, no.
Okay. So I think when I get to the end of all this, I'm going to ask whether there are any people who would be interested in making presentations about one or another of these particular topics for the city council. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about the consultant in terms of things that we could really kind of emphasize in terms of the value?
I'm just wondering where the $50 came from, because I used to be a consultant and I worked for IBM at the time, and IBM billed out a lot more than $50 an hour.
Yeah, yeah. So what would you imagine would be a fair price, like 150?
I don't know what the current price in that field was.
Yeah,
I was in the IT field, so.
yeah. So I suppose, Mike, we could get in touch with the folks at the Good Company and see what they charge just in terms of their consultants.
Yeah.
Because I know that was one of the ones that Kim had suggested really exploring. So would you like me to call the folks at Good Company?
Sure. Let's see. I remember a while back there was so Lake Oswego within the past couple of years hired a sustainability consultant. I don't know if this person works full-time or part-time. I think it was full-time, and I think they were offering a salary somewhere in the $75,000 a year range. So that works out to an hourly rate of $36 an hour.
Okay.
I don't know if something like an outside consultant on a temporary basis would be same order of magnitude.
Right. Right.
But I'm supposing based on that data point that, you know, we're not talking about somebody who's like a legal or managerial consultant
Yeah,
who would
yeah,
probably be billing hundreds of dollars.
right. Anything else that you'd like to share about like just the consultant in terms of the way that we present this to the city council? Yeah, Victoria.
Is it to the point at all to think about, I cannot recall her name, the woman who was consultant for Milwaukee, who spoke with us last year?
She was actually the natural resources coordinator for Milwaukee. Natalie,
Oh.
so she was
Natalie
more-
Rogers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Natalie Rogers. Yeah,
Not the same.
yeah, not the
Yeah,
same.
she's a full-time employee of the city.
Yeah, but somehow she was writing grants for this kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, she was. That's true. And she, like I tried to get in touch with her last week and she has moved on to another position. But I didn't call the city of Milwaukee to see if they could forward my inquiry, but
Yeah.
I could do that. Yeah, just to find out.
It seems like if we could even ask for someone half-time, it would be so
Mhm.
much better than nothing.
Well, I guess we have been asking that for years.
Yes, we
And I think we saw the consultant as a kind of an intermediary step.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. So the next piece, the second item was just presenting the baseline data. And I think Mike, we basically sent that to the city council, but Mike wanted to make sure that it was actually kind of approved by the council and that it now kind of be displayed and kept updated. And it felt like that was something that was going to require a council decision. Would that be correct, Dylan and Lou?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, the logistics of keeping it updated. But yeah.
So I could give some context here too. I think there's two separate asks here. One would be so we have the Westland Sustainable Strategic Plan that outlines a goal of carbon emissions reductions by 2040. No baseline for that goal had ever been established. And so through public records requests, I was able to basically assemble energy use data for electricity, natural gas, and transportation fuels, and basically take that information and put together an approximation of the city's carbon footprint, strictly speaking, from energy use. And so I think what we would like to see is the city in some more official capacity say, yes, this is the baseline against which we want to measure these climate or emissions reductions goals. So that would be one thing. And then the second would be to establish just some page on the city website that on either a monthly or annual basis reports how much electricity, natural gas, and transportation fuels and water that the city uses as essentially a transparency matter. This is data that could be gotten from the city using the city's like records requests. But I think it would just be in everyone's interest for that to be something that the city just voluntarily reports. I don't think it would take a lot of effort past creating a page on the website to update it. I think probably not, expecting anything past just updating a table on a website, which after gathering the data would probably only take a few minutes. The gathering the data is probably the more time consuming part, but I doubt that should take too long either.
Any
So
questions?
that would be the ask. I guess the two asks. The approval of I think the baseline would essentially be no cost unless the city wanted somebody internally to review the data and the analysis. That could happen, but there would be a cost to maintaining that dashboard on the city's website. But I can't imagine it's much. Probably at most an hour of somebody's time a month.
Well, I think we have to figure out how much time that would be and how easy it would be. Yeah. Your 1 hour a month estimate is, may or may not be true.
Sure.
Do you have any idea about how you could go about kind of estimating the time requirement of actually just uncovering that documentation?
Well, I'm wondering if some of it could be gleaned from financial records, you know. We're probably paying a fuel wholesaler, for example.
Because that's basically what you did, Mike, right?
Yeah, there were 3 separate public records requests. One was, hey, I'd like information about how much money you spent on transportation fuels from 2020 to 2023. I'd like information about natural gas usage under that same period and information about electricity usage under that same period. This information is all was all given to me in Excel files from the city staff. I couldn't tell you how long it took them to assemble this, but I think that given what I've seen, at least of how like Portland General Electric's like online portal works, like that is pretty easy to pull together, at least for like a household. And I know that PG or that Northwest Natural is fairly similar. I know that the city manages multiple properties, and so there may be something more complicated there. But most of these companies, I think, try to make accessing your data easy. But again, we would just want somebody in the city to, have a better estimate of what that would really take.
Do you know who in the city actually provided this data?
I can look up the emails real quick to see, but let's see.
If I remember, I think Northwest Natural we had to get from the gas company itself, didn't we? And then Public Works gave some of the fuels data, Finance gave some of the data. There was some work to compile it all. It's not, especially like some of the power thing, because we have street lights in different buildings. It gets to be a lot of invoices, a lot of different places, which makes it a little, like Mike said, a little more of an estimate. It was hard to get it completely dialed in.
If it were done on a monthly basis, Dylan, and there wasn't as much kind of archival information to try to pull out, do you think it would be kind of simpler just to kind of look at monthly bills from Northwest Natural and PGE and the water company?
I don't know. It's just somebody finding the time to do that in the midst of all their other stuff. I'm not sure. Yeah, I know we have the billing gets complicated. We have like one person that does accounts payable stuff. And I think she had to pull a lot of paper files, and yeah, it wasn't quite as straightforward as it would have been. It would have been nice if it was a little easier.
Victoria.
Well, we never asked her how long it took her to get those files together. She would know.
No, true.
It didn't seem to me that she was put out. She was very pleasant about it and said, "Here you go." So that's all I remember about that.
So it seems like that's a question that it would be good to be able to answer when we actually explore this issue with the council. So having that information in hand, I think, would be valuable. Dan or Kate, do you have any thoughts?
Nothing really further from me.
Okay.
Same. It makes sense to check in on how much time it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do remember that there's a limit to the amount of time that the city will voluntarily commit to fulfilling records requests. I don't think I know the number, but I'm guessing it's like in the 1 to 3 hour range, right? Maybe Dylan, you know the number.
I don't know, not off the top of my head, but yeah, we're pretty flexible with it because there is time involved in billing and stuff as well. So, and especially since it was done for this group, I don't know if the time was tracked as much.
Okay, because I know that for one of the requests that I made, and I think it was probably the natural gas, the response that I got back initially was that it would take a lot of time, and that the city wanted to bill for that time. And I think I followed up and asked if that could be waived on account of this being for the board. I see here that subsequently you were able to provide an Excel spreadsheet with just a bunch of raw data.
Yeah, that was the
And
one. It was hard to get through this, what the city had, so we asked Northwest Natural directly, and they took some time to get it to us. Yeah.
okay. And maybe that's a way that this can be like streamlined, is to just, all these companies have customer service reps. I'm assuming presumably for municipalities that they actually have like somebody that you can get on the phone with that manages the relationship with the city, and that they could potentially just provide that on a annual or monthly basis, whichever is deemed appropriate.
Yeah, I would agree. That seems like it might be a more streamlined way to do it than rifling through all the monthly bills. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So I think for this one, if we can have something that kind of speaks to the issue of time in terms of the collection of the data and then its presentation. So it doesn't take a lot of time of a city staff, but in terms of really being able to track what the city's doing, having the baseline and then these kind of monthly reports, if not monthly reports, maybe at least semi-annual reports would be really valuable. And that might be a way to think about it, is semi-annual rather than monthly. Let's move on to the next item, which was walkable, bikeable city, which we haven't talked very much about at all. But I know that it was a high priority item for both for Kate and Dan. And I'm feeling that it's the sort of thing that would be kind of preliminary, whatever we're doing right now. But before jumping into it, Dylan or Lou, could you say anything about like where the city is with regard to its planning, with regard to becoming more walkable and bikeable? I know we've got the sidewalk going up Salama right now. A difficult walk and a fun ride down, but I'm just curious about other ways in which the city is already kind of addressing this issue.
I just want to comment that bikeable may include electric bikes, which I see more and more of all the time.
Yeah. So that really does make a lot of sense with Salama.
Yeah.
And I know that there's interest in kind of creating a bike lane with whatever improvement is kind of introduced on Willamette Falls Drive, so that it would be possible to bike safely from Willamette to the bridge, which would be kind of extraordinary if that happened. So I know that
Yes, please.
to some extent that is in the works with regard to the waterfront development plan.
Yeah, I
So
believe there is a
something that's more-
dedicated. I believe there is a dedicated, at least sidewalk. I'm not sure about a.
At least when I've looked at the drawings, there's people are biking on it. So I think that there was a bike path with it.
Yeah.
Maybe it is just a sidewalk, but.
Yeah, I think they're working on design plans for that. I think some of the bond money was being used for design, but as far as construction, I think it's a significant construction cost that we don't have the money for that. But yeah. Being planned along with, down at Highway 43, trying to add bike lanes, pedestrian stuff down there. We're always all sorts of safe routes to school projects. There's always we're always trying to get more pedestrian and bike projects going in lots of the capital improvement plans. I know Metro has, I think it's a regional transportation plan that we've put a bunch of bike and ped projects in there, so we can apply for grant funding when those opportunities come. So always looking for make it more bikeable, walkable. And House Bill, I think 2001 kind of folds into that as well. There's a lot of components to that are coming through the planning process, as far as creating more density in certain areas and making all those neighborhood centers that people can access by being walkable, bikeable. So there's long range planning and there's more immediate stuff, but funding's always the problem.
Dylan, if I could just ask, just curious about Willamette Falls Drive there by the new middle school, the new AC Creek Middle School. I know, they're putting in that new roundabout. right there, Victoria, right by our community garden there. And just curious, are they putting sidewalks in there to make that more at least walkable or not? It kind of looks like they are, but I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, I can't remember the extent of it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there is some going in there. I know they were doing a redesign with some retaining walls and some issues, and I haven't seen the redesign. I'm not sure the extent, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some down there.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, it might be helpful. I mean, with the kids at school, if they're trying to get over to the park, it makes sense having those sidewalks.
Yeah.
Is there any other kind of civic part of the city, community group, board, a commission that is looking at the walkable, bikeable city piece? Is somebody else doing the planning with regard to that?
Yeah, the Transportation Advisory Board, TAB, is always working on that. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So would it make sense to kind of have a conversation with them at some point and just kind of get an idea about ways in which we might be able to assist that process?
Sure. That it might be a good thing for the chairs of this group to maybe just touch base with them. It might be more efficient. Yeah.
Okay.
Does
So
that work for you guys? Yeah.
From what you're saying, it sounds as though there is at least, some thought being put into this at the
certainly.
city level, the transportation committee, the board, et cetera. So do you think that it would be kind of appropriate for us to bring this up at our meeting with the city council?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, totally. It's walkable, bikeable, multimodal stuff. It's incorporated throughout, always we're thinking about it in projects. Yeah.
And Dan and Kate, what sorts of things were you thinking of in particular that kind of led you to rank it so highly? Would you want to really communicate to the city council?
Yeah. Kate, I guess, do you want to go first, or do you mind if I don't care either.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so
Go
since
ahead.
I'm
I was just-
talking, so for me, just again, my kids, and they have a lot of friends. They go to school there at Athey Creek, and it would be nice to see where they could, ride their bikes to and from school, safely down Willamette. And it just makes sense, where kids can ride their bikes into, where the food carts are and all of that safely. And really, I mean, I see a lot of adults too, biking. I mean, people will bike. I see it all the time, through Stafford there, down Borland Road, right? And, drivers are always having to, we kind of have to drive over the double line to keep the bikers safe. And obviously that's Stafford, but, it'd be nice to see what we can do, on Willamette Falls Drive. Just, I think it would help with local businesses, the Willamette District, historic district there, drawing, bikers and pedestrians in closer to, especially in the warmer weather months, encourage more visitors for the summer market. And then, eventually seeing those bike lanes go all the way down, towards Oregon City. There's been talk about that bridge, that old bridge by the falls, being turned into a bike bridge, but it's flat. It makes sense to me. That's where the high school's at, is down there. So again, just, a safe route where students and others can ride their bikes is just kind of in the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, on that note, if you go to the city's main webpage, go to the very bottom and look at GoBond projects, there's one project called Willamette Falls Drive Improvements, Tualatin River to 16th, and then 10th Street to Highway 43, because the historic Main Street project, that was its own project. And now this project is those two other sections, because there is the plan to make this a whole corridor, including bike and pedestrian stuff. So it's kind of in the design. Like I said, yeah, I think the idea is to get this design ready so that, because there's not enough money for construction, but have the design ready so that when there's grants like RFFA grants, like Metro grants and things, we can apply for them. So it is definitely something. It's a project, and there's concept plans on there, so you can take a look at that.
Nice. Great.
Definitely on
Thanks.
our radar. Yeah.
And
Kate.
I just wanted to add, kind of based on something Greg had said about reaching out to the transportation board, it feels like anytime that we can collaborate with another group where we have a common interest, it seems like that's a good direction to take a project, because, you know, if, I think it gets more people behind it, right? Sorry.
I'm wondering whether it would make sense to kind of see the whole issue tied into bikeable, walkable city as a kind of one of our goals for the coming year. And really try to do what we can to kind of inform ourselves about what's currently happening and ways in which we could collaborate with the transportation board, et cetera. Any thoughts about that? And Dylan or Lou, do you think that there's value in our kind of saying our piece about trying to kind of increase the bike paths and walking paths in the city
No,
at this meeting?
I strongly encourage you to do that. Yeah, the other issue perhaps is public transport and how that interacts with bikeable, walkable.
Yeah.
There are cities where there's basically, near bus stops, places where you can lock up or store your bikes, for example.
That note, TriMet is proposing some new routes that go through the heart of the city that have been desired for a long time. Things kind of coming up and over the hill. I don't know if you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad those conversations have happened. That's
Maybe
good.
supporting with TriMet, and we'll see if it materializes. But there's the momentum in that direction.
Good. So keep the question of who would like to talk about like bikeable, walkable city when we get together with the council. Let's move on to the whole issue of the resolutions that we had pulled together with regard to kind of making a transition, like when gas-powered equipment, tools, furnaces, appliances are ready to be replaced, that they be replaced with electricity using equipment. Dylan had kind of expressed some concerns. Well, had mentioned that concerns had been raised about this. So I had a conversation with Megan, and Megan, I think, is really kind of on board with moving in this direction. Eric in Public Works has other concerns with regard to furnaces, and I ended up wanting to do some research to see like what some of the cost differentials were, and in talking with Megan, came up with a kind of a revision of what we had agreed upon in November. But just to give you an example of some of the costs, like a 74-inch riding mower that is powered with batteries, and with batteries that would last 7 to 8 hours, would cost $50,000 in comparison to $18,000 for a gas-powered lawnmower that would do, basically the same size. Leaf blowers, they're closer to the same cost. Chainsaws are similar costs, but oftentimes, actually, when I was talking to Megan today, she said that with the larger trees, the gas-powered chainsaws were preferable. When I looked at commercial induction range ovens, electricity run, they cost between $10,000 to $17,000. Commercial gas ranges cost between $2,000 and $5,000. So there's a kind of a significant difference in cost. And what I found out with regard to heat pumps is that in larger buildings, commercial buildings, and public buildings, it's kind of untested right now. There's a lot more knowledge about the use of heat pumps in residences than in commercial buildings, and so it's a technology that is kind of coming into its own at the commercial level in the public buildings, but like in a 24,000 square foot building, which would be kind of comparable to the library, it would require, given my kind of rough calculations, six 6-ton boilers at a cost of about $12,350 a piece. And I have no idea what the a gas furnace would be for that size building, but it just suggested that they are pricey, that the technology is still kind of under development. And so when I talked with Megan, she felt comfortable with a revision to the language in that resolution so that we would say, where technologically appropriate and affordable, the city government of West Lynch shall replace fossil fuel powered landscaping equipment with electric alternatives, et cetera. And the same like with the furnaces. So just including the language where technologically appropriate and affordable. Because like sometimes, the lawnmowers cost a lot of money at $50,000 compared to $18,000. And the city just doesn't have that kind of money. And she was finding that it was just concerned about the fact that they would be kind of hemmed in by that, but is very interested in moving in this direction. Just didn't want to be kind of handcuffed to a particular policy. Yeah, Lou.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I think we're very early down the technological learning curve. And so these differences will over time probably be greatly reduced. So, it's not, I don't think anybody makes an electric powered dump truck at the moment. So,
Yeah.
But eventually these things will come and the costs will probably equalize or even eventually become less than internal combustion.
Right.
And gas. But yeah, it's good to have the policy and it's good to have a goal. And as long as it's, economically feasible, a few percent more might be feasible, but double or triple is not.
Yeah. So I guess
I think there would be an expectation, at least in many like electrical appliances, that the operating costs would be lower than that for like fossil fuels. I imagine that's appropriate to consider in these decisions.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the case of something like that $50,000 riding lawnmower, like that's never going to make up for the additional cost.
Yeah. So I guess my question for members of the SAB, do you feel okay about that revision in our original proposal to kind of include the language technologically appropriate and you could say financially feasible or just affordable? Yeah, Victoria.
I like it. And if it's something that Megan feels good about, then it's to the point.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that change.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do that. It seems like this would be pretty straightforward to present. Is there anything else that you would want to say about it? We've had lots of conversations about this particular resolution.
I think it might just be helpful to emphasize that this isn't asking for any like current expenditures to be made.
No, I think we're talking about as we replace items.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That it be kind of an aspiration that this happen. And whenever possible, from the standpoint of the technology and cost, that we do this.
Yep. Yeah, it identifies a decision point in the future that like we can make these kinds of considerations for.
Yeah.
And sets a tone for what like a good decision looks like.
With regard, can we move on to revising the tree code? Need to do that.
I'm fine with that.
With regard to the revision of the tree code, we've talked about this one a lot. We presented our ideas to the council. I guess one of my questions, Lou, you might be able to answer, and if Dylan's still around, when Mike and I talked to the council, 5 or 6 months ago, about kind of introducing an amendment to the tree code based upon the language found in Milwaukee's tree code as it related to kind of maintaining the urban canopy. My impression was that that it couldn't, like an amendment like that could not be introduced easily, that it was a much more involved process that would require quite a bit more research and investigation. What's your understanding about what could actually be done with regard to the tree code, Lou?
I know it was under consideration, and I'd have to do some research to find out where, if anybody's working on language or where that stands.
Yeah, because I know that it's on the docket, but it's at the bottom of the docket. And I think our interest is just having it moved up, in part because of the 2001 bill and just the infill that's going on and the consequences that that might have for tree canopy.
I'll bring that up as try to find out what its status is.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you could look at that and get that information back to us, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, okay.
I can read you. I am still here. I was having audio problems, so I just
Okay.
turned the video off. On the docket, it does say, it does kind of talk about how much it's a big project. It says, what is it? This project would require extensive public involvement from property owners, neighborhoods, and developers. Statewide Planning Goal 5 processes would need to be followed if mandates were preferred. Evaluating the tree code programs in the municipal code is also recommended to ensure consistency. Significant staff time and budget for consultant services would be required. So I think it's bigger than it seems, and I'm not quite sure what all those details are or all those other codes and things that we have to follow. But yeah, some significant time there. They list it under large projects.
And I guess that was my source of confusion was we already have a tree code. And if we're asking for just kind of a revision of one part of it that would kind of affect new lots that are being developed or divided, it just seemed that it was more straightforward. And so does it really involve a kind of a major revision?
I mean, that's
I think the issue is if you're a developer and you've been operating under the assumption of the old rules and suddenly new rules are put upon you, that may be considered legally as taking and the city might get sued. So we've really got to go through a process to make sure that there is public support for a new set of rules.
And we could, if you were wanting to, you could reach out to Darren Weiss, the planning manager, and have a discussion. Okay. He would be able to probably explain maybe some of those details you're interested in.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay. And would you folks, like on the board, feel comfortable with me talking with Darren, reporting back to you on what I find, and then kind of basing our conversation with the council about tree code on whatever it is I discover?
Yeah.
I can share it with you. We can have an email conversation about it and then kind of move forward with it in one way or another based upon what I learned from Darren.
Email's fine. Thank you for doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question that might be relevant when speaking to him. I would wonder, like, to get a number on that, like staff time commitment. You know, I've seen many studies that talk about the value of the urban canopy, and if there's hesitation at spending however many, surely it's thousands of dollars, but if we're talking about spending $30,000 of city money in order to save hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars of like tree value, then I think that's worth highlighting instead of it just being like, oh, it's a cost. Like let's talk about the value of actually preserving the canopy and put that in dollar value too. Because I feel like so many things can easily be written off as like, oh, it's expensive. But like we're doing this because we see the value in it.
Great.
Yeah, and it's hard to assign a number to the value of nature.
So just following up on what you were saying, Mike, do you know of metrics that apply to the value of the the urban canopy?
I know I've encountered some before. I don't know them offhand.
Uh,
But when I was preparing the testimony that, or my portion of the testimony that we offered in June, I
yeah.
did encounter some. So let me dig back into that. I'll take that as
Okay.
a action item here.
I have a friend in Seattle who's working on that with the city of Seattle, the value of their green space, their canopies. So I could ask him and get back to you, Mike.
Great, sure.
Excellent. Great.
Yeah. I know there's so many avenues to take that. There's just, it prevents runoff to have healthier tree canopy. It provides shade, so it lowers heating costs, cooling costs. If it protects roads, then you have reduced road maintenance costs. Provides wildlife habitat, and there's all this recreational value associated with it. Just quality of life. I mean, there's many different categories of value that we could attempt to put a dollar value to.
The trick after this particular storm, though, is really kind of persuading people that leaving those trees up when they might fall on your house is an interesting tension in this particular part of the world. So, well, let's kind of see what I learn about tree code, and then we can kind of decide where we want to go with that at that point. And then the last item that came up was one that I've been talking about with regard to climate resilience, which I actually didn't include in my my list of items to bring up. But I'd be curious about why folks who thought that one was worth including in our conversation with the city council kind of included it.
I think we've just had a little lesson in climate resilience the last few days.
Yes, to say the least.
Yeah, I thought it was an important topic. Yeah, just given what we're going through right now, and then we had that large ice storm 3 years ago, and then the heat dome. I mean, with climate change, it's unfortunately becoming almost an annual thing, right? And then I think it especially affects people of lower incomes, people that don't have the resources for like air conditioning or, like a backup generator or what have you. So having those, warming or cooling stations seems, very important for lower income folks, especially, but really the community at large. And so to me, because I feel like climate change disproportionately affects people of more modest means, lower income. It kind of has an environmental justice aspect to it. So that's why I thought it was important.
Good. Well, I would be happy to speak about this one. And actually, I'm reading a really wonderful book about climate resilience right now that features interviews with 39 women from around the world who are kind of working on this issue in a variety of capacities. But I think what's particularly valuable about it at the moment is the fact that there is state money available to help create like neighborhood centers to really kind of help with issues tied into warming and heating and electronic equipment, et cetera. So warming and cooling. And so I think it's an opportune time for the city to be kind of looking at how it could draw upon state dollars to help support the creation of those kinds of places in West Lynn. So I'm happy to talk about that one.
And just for reference, like the library is our primary, is designated with the county as like a warming and cooling center.
Right.
And especially during their regular business hours, and sometimes those hours do get extended during storms. And also the ACC is one as well, although it doesn't have an emergency generator, so it's not our primary one. Yeah.
That's a little tricky when the library closes with inclement weather.
This is
Hard
true.
to be a warming center.
Yeah.
They were closed Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Well, Monday was because of the holiday.
Do the schools ever serve as that purpose, or just curious?
They haven't historically, to my knowledge, no,
Uh-huh.
been interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Mike mentioned the projected recreation center. One of its functions might be as a emergency gathering place.
Yeah, yeah. And certainly thinking about fire stations, the police station, those are other kind of places that people could go. Robinwood Station. Yeah, Victoria.
Do we have any idea what the need is? I mean, how
What the-
many people, how would you even find out how many people are wishing they could have gone somewhere and couldn't go because it wasn't a place? I don't know.
Well, we have had during that big ice storm, or we had a long extended power outage, and we did have one of them. We advertised it as like a storm center to come charge your phones and get water and food and things. And it wasn't, I can't remember the number of people, but it was a handful of people, or like, sometimes like one person. It wasn't a lot. A lot of times it was empty.
So it's ideally you'd have one in every neighborhood, but if
Mhm.
you don't really need it,
Yeah.
Well, that would depend on the extent of the emergency too.
yes,
Yeah.
it would. If we have the big earthquake, I'm not prepared.
And it's always the staffing of them is challenging, especially after hours.
Right.
Do we know if the city has a game plan for the big one?
That's a big
Dylan's
question.
the man.
Yes and no. I mean, we have some plans. We have a natural hazard mitigation plan that's currently being updated. But it's going to be hard. Yeah, we can't really plan too much for something that's going to knock us all out. It's going to be, that's why everyone needs to be prepared, right? They're themselves as well.
Yeah.
And that's part of the climate resilience thing in terms of kind of also looking at community mapping and working with folks in the neighborhood to get to know one's neighbors. And well, it's kind of like what we've seen with regard to people helping remove trees that have fallen, throughout other parts of the community, and that happened here 3 years ago. So, well, let's bring it up and see where the city council would like to go. But I have a feeling, as with the walkable, bikeable city, it's the sort of thing that we could conceivably collaborate with other units and organizations in the city, and certainly work with Dylan in terms of what he's doing with regard to emergency preparedness as well. So those were the things that were, the things that kind of came to the surface on the list of recommendations that we had. We know that the city is interested in having us locate, help with the location of EV charging stations. And Dylan mentioned that our recommendations have gone to Public Works right now. Mike, you had also said that you talked with Rory and about, somebody from our group getting together with
Yeah, I can speak to
folks
that.
in the city. Yeah, could you say more about that?
Sure. I had an opportunity to meet with Rory. I guess it must have been in December. But he floated the idea of establishing some sort of task force that would be composed of city staff, potentially city council representatives, somebody from the SAB, and commercial property owners throughout the city, to see if there's a way that the city might be able to encourage the companies that own the property where Market of Choice is situated, and Safeway and Walmart, to get them to install chargers at their locations. There's a benefit to those property owners to acting customers to those stores, and on some of it really shouldn't be just down to the city to install this charging infrastructure. I mean, we don't ask the city to install gas stations.
Mhm.
And so I think there's an expectation that private investment should also be made in putting these stations into the community. And these seem like good companies to approach with that as an idea. But
Victoria.
I haven't heard. Oh, go ahead, Victoria.
I'm in support of that. The more I think about what you're saying, I used to think it's our job, the government should do this, but now I'm thinking, now that it's headed the other direction, every time I've needed a charging station and I'm out somewhere on 84 and it's a Target in Hood River that's got, you know, got the charging station, what do? You plug it in and you go into Target. So yeah, I think would feel very good about asking those businesses to do that. And I like the idea of the task force. I'm grateful for your conversation with Rory.
Good. So I think I'm guessing that the city council will kind of bring that up as one of the issues that they want us to kind of be involved with as well. So be prepared for that. With regard to the leaf blowers, I think we've begun to do a little bit of research on that. So I'm happy to keep on kind of exploring it. Dan, have you looked any further into kind of leaf blower regulations?
Yeah, let me try to share my screen here.
And one big plus is electric leaf blowers are a lot quieter.
Can you see where does it say leaf blower ban?
We can see your screen, yes.
Okay, great. Just making sure I'm got a bunch of different documents on my screen. So yeah, so I can email this out. I don't think I have yet, but I did a lot of research here. This is a 2-page document, but basically it kind of lays out the problem, right? With it's just astounding the amount of pollution that these blowers dump out into our air, and not to mention the noise, as well as, very damaging to our, residents in our community. And then I did a little research here on legal precedents in other jurisdictions. Basically California is leading the way. They voted to ban the sale of new gas-powered leaf blowers and other yard equipment. And they're also offering 40% tax credit for upgrades to commercial users. So this lays out kind of what California's done. California did have a long history of municipalities, doing their own city-wide bans as well. And there has been a move throughout the country, as you can see, about 150 municipalities nationwide, including DC and all the way, from other areas, Miami, et cetera. I dove into specifically here in Oregon. Unfortunately, there's been 3 state legislative attempts that have failed, in 2019, 21, and 23. And I've listed the reps that helped try to sponsor that. Really, the pandemic put a hold on a lot of this effort. Multnomah County did pass a resolution. They're basically saying we want to ban it. Multnomah County's likely, Portland's likely to vote on it in this year, 2024. And then I looked at other cities like Lake Oswego. Their city plan is to be all electric by 2025. And I'll go into that in a moment. Other cities, and I really like the idea of trying to collaborate with these other cities, Eugene, Salem, and Durham. They're all attempting to form a national alliance to share resources and political power. In other words, like grants and, educational outreach, et cetera. There's a great website called Quiet Clean PDX that's worth researching. And then I looked at Lake Oswego's approach. Obviously, they're our next door neighbor here. They've done a big public education outreach. The city took a unique approach, I thought, in 2021. The city council voted 4-3 to approve this, $377,000 contract with this private company called Storm Landscape Services. And they use electric lawn equipment to do landscaping in 200 city sites. So as we were talking about earlier, Greg, I think you mentioned the extreme high cost of like, large lawnmowers, on the electric. If it's an EV large commercial lawnmower, you're looking at a very expensive cost. So Lake Oswego's approach was, let's just get enough money to contract with a private company that does that. So I thought that was a unique approach. Just things I wanted to highlight too. There's incentives. I was kind of looking at incentives versus penalties, bans, and phase outs. The Inflation Reduction Act, it does give tax credits. It basically it classifies a commercial lawnmower as a vehicle for the purpose of the EV tax credit, but it caps out at $7,500 per lawnmower. Just something maybe, the commercial users might consider. Obviously, incentives are always easier to pass than bans or penalties. It's just something we might consider, think about. You always ask, like, when you want to shape, people's, practice and what they're doing, do you choose either penalties or bans, or you choose incentives? So carrot or stick approach, just something to think about. And of course, education's always important. But again, I personally kind of like the idea of trying to collaborate or team up with Eugene, Salem, Durham, and perhaps like Wilsonville and Tualatin, and really trying to get a collaboration together, because obviously there's power in numbers, and seeing what they're doing and strength in numbers, that might be helpful. So anyways, those were some of the thoughts that I had. I'm happy to email that out as well. So.
Great. Victoria.
I like that. I do have one question. If the city, like Lake Oswego, but if Westland contracts with a private company, what happens to the Westland employees?
That's good. Very good question.
Yeah. It's kind of like going to janitorial services rather than having everybody at a college be, the folks who had been the janitors kind of lose all of the benefits that they'd had as a result of it.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that's something I would be happy to look into. That's a really good point, Victoria. My guess is the city has plenty of other projects going on, but yeah, good question. Happy to look into that. That's an important issue.
Well, it seems like being able to share that information at the meeting with the city council would be valuable, Dan. So
Yeah.
I would bring in copies for council members of that particular report, and basically just say that we're willing to keep on working on this and see what we can come up with in terms of suggestions for a particular possible kind of a change in code, et cetera. Good.
That sounds great. Yeah, I'm happy to take the lead on that if you want.
So I think that brings us to the end of our conversation just about the items that we bring to the city council. Are there particular issues that other people would feel comfortable speaking to, so that not, Mike and I aren't the only ones who are talking at this thing? Is there an item that Kate or Dan or Victoria that you would like to be able to speak to and take the lead on that presentation?
I feel so unqualified.
That's true of all of us when it comes to
Just tongue-tied.
I don't mind, helping wherever you guys want me to. I'm happy to, if you want me to talk about the leaf blower issues, I'm happy to do that. I also feel really passionate about the bike and pedestrian issue. So wherever you need help, I'm happy to help out.
Great. That would be excellent. I think if you were to take those two. Kate, anything in addition that you would like to talk about?
Which other ones?
The other ones, probably makes sense to have Mike talk about the baseline data, since he's been so involved with it. The consultant, the resolution, revising tree code, and then climate resilience.
I don't know if I'm your person for those.
Okay.
I was gonna, yeah, no, I think I'll probably let you guys handle that.
Okay. Well,
Thank you, Kate.
and Victoria, if
What's
anything,
that?
I said thanks.
anything kind of jumps out at you, please
Yeah.
let us know.
I mean,
I think we lost Lou.
Oh, he may have had to go to another meeting or something.
Um,
And the
yeah,
the
I mean, I think Dan, if you wanted any help talking about the walkable, bikeable stuff, I could
Okay.
work with
Yeah,
you on
let's.
that.
Sounds
That'd
good.
probably be the one I'm most comfortable with.
okay, great.
I would love to team up with
And
you
then
on
in
that.
general, yeah, okay, yeah, let's work together on that one. I would feel that's of those ones, that's probably what I'd feel most comfortable talking
Good.
about.
Great. Thank you.
I'm happy
The
to
tree code
also.
isn't. I like it, but I'm not the person to talk about it.
I was gonna say that I'd be comfortable doing some more research on the tree code question and
Excellent.
being a point
Excellent.
person on that.
And then I could do the consultant and the climate resilience and the resolution. Actually, those would be pretty straightforward to deal with. So, and Mike and I talked a little bit about each of us going and meeting with different city council people before the meeting, just to kind of basically kind of explain to them what we're kind of interested in having come out of that particular meeting. If we're able to do that, are any of you interested in kind of joining us for that? If it fit into your schedules? Victoria? Great.
I was thinking I could be happy to talk to Mary Baumgartner, but she has been present with this, even on this board.
Right,
So-
right.
Not sure that that's not necessary even, but
No, with me, well, yeah, and so probably Mary, it isn't necessary to talk with her, but you know, there and Lou has been part of this, so it might be, you know, talking with Carol and with Scott and Rory. If you feel, would you feel that it's probably not necessary to actually have that extra time? What are your thoughts about actually having a meeting like that?
well, what is the point of doing that and what would we be either asking or telling?
I think just having a conversation about where we're at and the kinds of things that we're really kind of interested in seeing happen, that we hope will come out of this particular meeting.
I could see that like making everybody as more prepared for the conversation that we would be having in that meeting.
Okay.
Mhm.
But
Kind-
Mike, you
kind
want
of
to
a-
talk to Rory.
Is it more correct, like in my kind of like a heads up, like these are the items we plan to talk about. We'll fill you in more details, but just kind of giving them the issues ahead of time. Is that right? Okay. That makes
And
sense.
if they have any questions that arise in that
Mhm.
conversation, then we can try to track down some answers before we have that larger conversation with the full council.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I would be interested, but I'm pretty busy right now
Pretty
at
busy.
work. But you know, if you guys have a date, like if you want to just let me know, I can just see, you know, if that fits or not. But
Sure, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
yeah,
Yeah, that sounds good.
I-
So, why don't we-
what
Go ahead.
one question there?
Yeah.
Since we have 5 members of the group now, if we meet with any more than 2, there are like public meeting
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
requirements of some sort.
yeah.
We'd have to account for that. I don't know the rules.
Wouldn't it
Victoria?
work? It would work to just go during, they don't, office hours? What do counselors call their time when they're open?
Yeah,
Something that-
Dylan, what would be the appropriate way of kind of organizing a meeting like that?
Yeah, I would just email whichever counselor you want to meet with. It'd be fine.
Yeah, just email
Okay.
them and say, I want to talk to you in your office and see what you're thinking about this.
And I think, as Mike says, no more than 2 of us should be there.
Right.
Yeah, just in terms of public meeting laws.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Um,
Mike and I will kind of try to arrange some meeting times and let you know like when they're happening. And if you're able to participate, and join one of us. I think we'll set it up so only one of us is meeting with a council member.
Yeah.
And if you can join us, fantastic.
That's interesting. Okay, that would work.
You're dubious, Kate.
Yeah, I had a kind of partially formed idea or thought that I want to kind of put out there. That's
Sure.
not necessarily related to this, but it's just like I've been coming for 6 months observation.
Uh-huh.
So I've noticed that a lot of times, like, we have a lot of ideas and things happening, and obviously money is such a limiting factor. You know, it's like, oh, we don't have budget for this. Oh, we can't do that for, budget, man hours, this and that. And I was just thinking about, part of what I was hoping that if when we're meeting with the council that we can get across is that hopefully that we can help them continue to have a sustainable lens in everything they're doing.
Mhm.
And sometimes, and part of this is like, someone always says, but budget, right? And, if someone asked me, and like, actually my daughter asked me today, why do we have solar panels and our neighbors don't, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes I was explaining how sometimes we make decisions that maybe don't financially pay off in the short term, right? But we do it because it's consistent with our values. And how we know we should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, if this whole, like, we don't have money, obviously we can't like pull money off a money tree, but the idea of like, how do we answer that when that's always our limiting factor, and how can we relay that back to our values within our community, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a
Okay.
very like, there's nothing there that I'm really asking. It's just something on my mind for us.
Right.
But it should come back to, these are our values and this is who we are as a community and as a place, and can we share that with the most people possible? And sometimes we have to make decisions like food composting, like changing the tree code, like, all these things that may cost more money when we know they have a important sustainable implications.
It just struck me that it would be wonderful if you were to kind of share that perspective in terms of like, what do these actions show about us and the kinds of things that we're really concerned about doing, and that it really is kind of part of everything and all of our decisions, and basically kind of introduce our conversation with the council with that particular perspective.
Yeah,
Would you
that
be-
big picture. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that big
Like to
picture,
do that?
there's all these little things we work on, but
Yeah.
if we don't have that why behind it, they're all just
Right.
little things, right?
Yeah.
Kate,
So
that
I
was a
really
great
like that.
speech. That was a really good speech. It was
Yeah.
motivational.
I used to be a college professor.
So this is
I
your
don't do it anymore. I can get up there and I can step on a soapbox, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, please come up with something 3 or 4 minutes long to do that. I think it would be excellent.
Okay. Yeah, because I think if we relate, and I think that's just like, when we're talking about our work within the community and within, there's that why has to be there,
Yeah.
Yes.
What if,
Definitely.
Kate, what if, as far as the council presentation, if you kind of gave a intro like that, that might be kind of nice, just to frame all of these issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I can plan. Is that okay?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
Sure.
that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you for speaking
Okay.
up. That's great.
All right.
got-
So a couple minutes is an intro
Uh-huh.
of that kind of bigger picture why and the value that
Right.
leads into, and then here's the specific things we're working on. Obviously, this isn't the extent of everything.
Right. Right.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Kate,
Excellent.
this
Excellent.
meeting
Great.
is recorded. You don't even have to rethink it.
No.
Oh, no. I have to overthink everything.
That's what being a professor is all about.
Yeah. You just just keep doing it. Yeah.
So there are a few other items on the agenda that I wanted to get to quickly.
Okay.
One is planning an Earth Day event. Charity, although she's not on the board, said that she would be happy to help with the organization of that again. We had talked about doing that, but Mike got a request that we have somebody from the board go to a similar event that's being organized at Crest over in Wilsonville that day. So it sounds as though the school district or Crest is trying to organize a similar Earth Day event with different organizations. And so I just wanted to kind of raise the question with you. Do we want to just kind of participate in that, or do we want to compete with it? Although I think there'll probably be different organizations that will be involved. So what's your sense? Should we kind of move forward with the Earth Day event like we did last year? Because it would mean that Mike and Dan and Victoria and I and who were all participants in it last year would probably be here. Maybe Kate could go over to Wilsonville and be at Crest. But so what are your thoughts?
Of course, we should do it.
Okay.
I think it makes sense for us to have a Westland event. I mean,
Okay, I will say, Mike and Dan, do you feel the same way?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so I will let Charity know, and then I'll go about the process of kind of contacting the people that I got in touch with last year to participate again as well. And let Charity do the legwork with the Ale and Cider House and some of the businesses who participated. So okay, let's go with that. And I said I would report out on what I learned from Christine. If I can find the right paper. Oh, I think I can, not finding it, but I can remember. What she said is that there's actually, I found it, Metro requires local governments to have businesses that involved with food production have recycled waste, but not residences. But they encourage it and believe that it's really important to do. What I learned from her is that Republic Services in LO actually has its own recycling location for food scraps just outside of Corvallis, which is what I think I learned. And so it fits into their organizational plan in terms of kind of vertical integration. And it makes it pretty easy for them to be able to do it and probably charge less than going to the Metro transfer station. What I've learned from her is that like Westland Refuse and Recycling does not have to go to Metro, which is the impression that I'd gotten when we talked with the folks last spring, that they could actually make an arrangement to take food waste to a transfer station that Republic uses outside of Canby, or even take stuff all the way down to Corvallis if they wanted to. And so that they had more flexibility in terms of potential rate structure and cost, depending upon like how much it was going to cost them to actually collaborate with Republic. And she said that other trash haulers in the area actually have quite creative relationships with one another in terms of the transfer stations and the sites that they use to take their compost or their yard debris. And so it sounded as though it really made sense to have another conversation with Westland Refuse and Recycling and get a sense from them about what kinds of flexibility they would imagine kind of bringing into their own operation. And she said that Metro staff people have been involved in a variety of negotiations with other trash haulers around issues similar to this, and that a Metro staff person could conceivably help with the formalization of such an agreement. So it sounded like talking with folks from Metro and talking with the trash haulers again would make sense in terms of trying to move forward with this and see whether it would be possible to kind of cut the cost down so that it wasn't going to be as kind of prohibitive as Mike discovered when he actually kind of ran the numbers. So that's what I learned from Christine. She sounded very interested, and she actually just lives up the hill in Willamette. So it would be easy to meet with her at some point as well if we wanted to. So any thoughts about how to kind of move forward with this particular issue?
Well, it certainly sounds like the hauler here needs to do another analysis on the potential cost.
Uh-huh.
So I think one of the things that we came to was an understanding that like it would be roughly $5 per customer per month, and if that can be brought down significantly through a creative relationship with Republic or some other organization, then like I think we should know what's possible there.
Yeah. So Mike, would you be interested in kind of meeting with the folks from Westland Refuse and Recycling with me at some point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so maybe that's an action item that Mike and I will kind of get together with them. Victoria?
Oh, I just think that now that you have this conversation with Christine, the questions are more specific, and we as a group have better background knowledge, so have more to take to the conversation with the local haulers.
Yeah. I will send you Christine's emails to me so that you can see specifically what she wrote.
Greg, you did that.
Yeah. Oh, did I already send those? Oh, I
Yeah.
did, didn't I? Okay, I'd forgotten that I'd done that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay. No, and they were interesting. I managed to read them before the meeting.
So I was redundant. Apologies for having done that. So Mike and I will then go ahead and meet with them, and then if it makes sense for them to come and meet with us again, we can do so. I think we're at the point where we can do new business. Any new
Can I
business?
just add?
Yes, yes.
I just want to add to that. I still think it makes sense given that I feel like we're like within a year or two of a new contract with the company.
Yeah.
That now's the time to put now's the time that negotiations can happen. So like understanding who negotiates with them, and if they're aware that there could be the potential to add the composting, and then also like, you know, we never want to overstep, but just is this a time where could we get a quote from the other hauler in the area that does already provide the service?
Right.
You know,
Yeah, Dylan.
that's
What's the
beyond
purpose of
that's beyond our group, but
Yeah.
is there, you know, if they can be more affordable in that service, does it make sense to look at it?
Mhm. Dylan, do you have any thoughts about like the issue that Kate just raised?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea and it would need to happen soon. My memory, I'm not quite sure, but I have a feeling that the contract might be this summer that it renews, and it auto renews, if I remember right. So we would have to give them notice and, negotiate and do a new contract. It would be a big process to put out a big, like a request for proposals for multiple haulers. It's something we could do, and it's something that would have to come from the council. So it might be something you want to talk to them about.
Okay, so just kind of bring that up as another one of the items that we see as part of this conversation.
Yeah, it's something that would need to get some traction really quick if we were going to put out,
Okay.
or
Good.
relatively quick if we're going to do a new RFP. We don't want to disrupt service, and getting a new garbage hauler, it's a big deal.
Good. So thank you.
I mean, I wonder if the council realizes how many of the other cities around us are now doing this service, that we're, that a bunch of them in Washington County, plus Lake Oswego, and of course Portland, and there's so many places who have figured this out. This seems like it should be possible.
It does.
Yeah. It does seem like it should be possible. So we're at 7:32. Again, I just raised the question of any new business that anyone would like to raise.
Don't think I
No,
have
there's
any.
plenty of old business here. We've got plenty to do.
One piece that I encountered when I was kind of looking at funding for heat pumps and insulation is that Oregon will be able to give 2,000 to 4,000 grants to people of any income level to weatherize their homes after the summer. And it struck me that one of the things that we could do as just one of our projects is try to figure out how to educate the public about that resource and try to kind of tighten up buildings and reduce energy use that way. And it seemed like it could be potentially an article for the Westland Tidings that one of us could write, or a few of us could write. It could also be kind of a presentation that we could give. So just keep it in the back of your minds. I'll send you the information that I discovered about those federal grants that are offered through the state for that purpose. But it would be a way to potentially kind of reduce, again, the amount of energy use in buildings. So just one item to keep in mind. Yes, Victoria.
Those funds aren't available for city buildings, are they?
Not that I know of. It looked like it was all pretty much residences.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'll look more carefully with that question in mind and just kind of see what happens. So how many of you will be able to come to the meeting on the 5th? My recollection was great.
What do we have
It's
a
at
time?
6:30 on
Okay.
Monday the 5th.
And is it on in person or remote?
I'm imagining it is in person, but I couldn't swear to it. Dylan, do you think the work meeting will be in person or remote?
It'll be either one. It's hybrid.
It is hybrid. Okay, so it could be either one. So
You sure it's
whatever.
not
works
6
for you. Excuse
About
me?
6 o'clock?
Oh, the message that we got from Dylan said likely we'll start at 6:30 because there's some reports beforehand.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, the council meeting starts at 6, but I think police review and recommend committee is on first. And they have public comments, and so it'll take a little bit of time to get to SAB.
Great.
Okay.
So, and then I think that the only other thing to be looking at is kind of being on the lookout for other potential members for the Sustainability Advisory Board. I mentioned that I spoke with or sent an email to Meredith Conley. Mike has talked with a woman named Bethany Ray. And so if you know other people you think might be interested in serving on the Sustainability Advisory Board, invite them. They can talk with Mike or me to get more information as well as you. And then if they got in touch with Dylan, he could tell them where they could find the application, like on the city website.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Anything else for the good of the order?
I was just gonna say, since obviously I care a lot about the food compost, can we bring that up briefly in the council meeting?
Yes, please do. And if you want to be the one who brings it up, great.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've got the info that I sent from Christine, so you can just summarize that as well as I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you all. It's a good meeting. Glad Mike was here as well. Sorry you missed the concert, but
I'll catch it later.
good.
Yeah.
And we'll see you all on the 5th, and maybe some
Okay.
of you in person. Good. Take care, all. Thank you.
Take care,
And thank you, Dylan, for joining us.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.